Hello ladies and gentlemen, Teo here, back with more Ever17. Where were we when we left off? We were like splitting up to search the area, right? While Sora tried to get various systems back online or something. Was it? Yeah, something along those lines. Close enough. Alright, let's do it. Sora said she was going back to the control room to get data, so we went our separate ways. You, Coco, and the kid and I went to search around the complex. We decided to check the normal corridors and emergency corridors above and below them on the 3rd floor. Splitting into pairs where the corridor forked, we agreed to meet back at the fork when we had checked the corridor ahead. We did that over and over. Sounds like, a blast. We walked down every corridor that we could walk down. I wondered if water was leaking anywhere. I figured the water pressure would send water spurting through any crack it could find. Also, I thought there might be other people that had been left behind. According to Sora, the system had told her that there were 6 people in the complex. Still, there was no guarantee that was right. Yeah, that number 6 was bothering me. Like, Sora shouldn't count, right? Like, she doesn't give off a heat signature, and last time I checked, or at least that if I remember correctly, that's what they said the system went off of, right? So, the fact that Sora's unconcerned about the number 6 is weird to me. Because it makes sense that the rest of the cast is unconcerned, or at least the rest of the cast besides you, because I think Yu's the only person at this point who knows that Sora's a hologram. Anyhow, most of the rest of the cast should be fine with the number 6, but Sora and you should not, right? And the fact that they are fine with it, I guess, means that Sora counts? That's weird. Like, it feels like she shouldn't. And last time I chalked the 6th person up to Coco. I don't know why the number was fluctuating, though. Right, I had the 6th person as Coco. But then the number was, like, fluctuating between 5 and 7, right? And so I figured 5 was Coco wasn't there, for whatever reason. I guess she might have been on the 4th floor, right? Like, that was sort of the big reveal at the end of User Route, or, like, one of the big reveals, was that there's a 4th floor to Limu that is presumably outside of the range of the scanners. Because it's, like, I don't know, top secret. And as a result falls outside the purview of, like, the rest of the publicly accessible systems. So, I guess the number fluctuating could have been Coco going up and down between the 3rd and 4th floors, although it still doesn't make a huge amount of sense because I was under the assumption for most of the time that Coco was a hologram. I guess there might be the actual Coco also in the complex. But that still only accounts for 6, right? Oh yeah, and then I had PP counting for 7. Although I guess in retrospect that doesn't make that much sense either, because sometimes it was at 6, right? Which means I guess it isn't impossible for Coco and PP to split up. But here, like, Coco's accounted for. So if Sora doesn't count towards this, like, person count, then I'm very confused. Right? Because it doesn't really make sense for Sarah to fill the same role that Coco did in the kids' route. Just like logistically, it feels like her role in the story is slightly different, but maybe it does actually, right? Because there's clearly some sort of overlap between Coco and Sarah. Like the scene in the whale room, the fact that Coco has just now taken to calling you Nakyu. Like they're clearly related in some capacity. But, I don't know. I thought that if we found somebody else, it might change our situation. There could also have been a corridor that the broken sensors weren't picking up. I had hoped there might be a door to the surface that we were simply unaware of. I couldn't throw away that shred of hope. Yeah, that would make for a really short route. They're like, oh, we found the door out. Well, nice meeting you all. See you around. And then they headed their separate ways. The end. While we were out searching, Sora continued to try to get into contact with Limu's central computer, Lemma, and gather more information. Sora had said that she wanted to establish a means of communicating with the outside. We arrived in front of the kiosk. Sora had arrived first and was waiting, but Tsugumi was nowhere to be seen. I mean, are we really that surprised? Tsugumi hasn't come back. We can't just let her run loose. I wonder where she is. Shall I check? We all went into the central control room. We checked the life reading scan of people inside the complex. Even if Tsugumi were moving around, she should still appear in the results of the scan. That is, of course, if she is in the complex. And she might not be, right? Because in the kids' route, Tsugumi clearly knew more than the rest of the cast. Like, she was suspicious of everyone else and seemed to have, like, good reason for it. And seemed to, like, have some greater sense than everyone else about, like, the overarching schemes that were going on. Which means she might well know about the 4th floor, else she might well have access into Heimel. Or however you pronounce that. Heimel? Heimel sounds plausible, at least. But I say that about all the foreign words that I mispronounce, so take that with a grain of salt. Sure, if there are any friendly German speakers watching this right now, they can pipe up in the comments and mock me for my butchering of their language. And if she's alive. I managed to keep that thought from coming out of my mouth. Yeah, and that's probably for the best. Like, that would have been needlessly morbid. It only took a moment for a map of Limu and data from the sensors to appear. There was one fuzzy light on the 2nd floor. That would be Tsugumi. There were a number of lights in a room on the 3rd floor. I figured that was the control room where we were. Oh. What is it? Hey, isn't that strange? Look. The kid pointed at a corner of the monitor. It indicated a single-digit number. I mean, I certainly hope it's single digits, right? Like, if it's not single digits, then we have a problem. Life reading, 6. Okay. Watch it closely. Oh, don't do this to me again. Life reading's 5. Life reading 7. Life reading 6. 5. 7. 6. 5. 7. 6. Oh my, you're right. I wonder what it could be. Man, not this again. Like, last time it at least made some amount of sense because I was counting the dog as the extra body, right? So you have, of the main cast of 6, you have Sora not counting, so that's how we get to 5 sometimes. And then for the remaining 2, I guess under my new theory that the missing people are going to Heimel, that I guess sometimes Coco's coming out of Heimel and sometimes the dog's coming with her, at least in the kids' route, right? But that doesn't work anymore because Coco's here, Coco's accounted for. So, I don't know. There's also the question of whether or not Sora counts towards the scan, because I've just been writing her off as not counting up until now. But now that I take into account the fact that neither Sora nor you seems nonplussed, concerned about the fact that the number is 6. Like, I guess Sora counts, which is weird, given that I was under the assumption that it was working off heat signatures, which Sora shouldn't give off, given the fact that she is not physically present anywhere. But then if Sora counts, we have a whole new set of issues, right? Because unless it's Tsugumi herself going down to Heimel, which I guess I just said was plausible, so I guess that's not a problem. But unless Tsugumi herself is going down to Heimel, or going outside of the scan radius, for whatever reason, then, like, it shouldn't be able to go down to 5. Because for it to go down to 5, it means one of our, like, 6 accounted for people needs to not be counted. And I'd assumed from the beginning that the person who wasn't being counted was Sora, for fairly obvious reasons. But if Sora counts, then that means at some point, somebody, probably Tsugumi, has to not count. Sora fiddled with the console, but the numbers on the monitor continue to fluctuate. The number changed every few seconds, yet don't do that. The number changing every few seconds is also, like, bugging with my head. Like, either they're spending a lot of time in the bloody elevator to Heimel, A. B, like, the entirety of Heimel is, like, sometimes picked up. Like, if they're, I don't know, jumping, they're, like, high enough that the sensor picks them up, or something. Right? So either Heimel sometimes counts, they spend a lot of time in the elevator, or, like, the Heimel explanation doesn't work anymore. Like, those are the 3 possibilities I see. But even while the life scan numbers changed, no new lights appeared or disappeared. Okay. So that's, I guess, reasonable if our 2 unaccounted for individuals are in Heimel. But it doesn't make sense anymore if Sora counts, right? because then the person that needs to go missing for the number to go down to 5 is Tsugumi, and if Tsugumi's light isn't changing, then we have a problem. Maybe there's somebody besides us in Limu. If the number really is supposed to be 7, that's what it would mean. Don't you think we should go look for that person? I mean, they could be in trouble. We have to help them. Hang on, kid. Calm down. For a while, all of our eyes were glued to the changing numbers. Watching them change was unsettling. Yeah, you're telling me. Finally, life reading 6. The monitor settled on the number 6, which is... makes sense if Sora counts, which doesn't make sense, or doesn't make sense if Sora doesn't count. Basically, it would mean that somebody has come out of Heimel. Or somebody has, like, temporarily been added to the count for longer than a couple seconds. Which, under my assumption that Heimel is the reason for the fluctuating numbers, it means somebody has come out of Heimel. But I guess I can't really come up with a reason for somebody to come out of Heimel until I figure out why they're in Heimel or who they are. Right? So I'm still not much farther than I was when I started this whole diatribe. The light on the second floor was moving around slowly. Okay. That's Tsugumi, presumably. But yeah, that adds another wrench to our theory of, like, what if it's somebody coming out of Heimel? Because then their light should, like, appear on the diagram. Right? So 6 doesn't make sense. The 5 lights on the third floor were all in one room, unmoving. Okay, see. That, I guess, soft confirms that Sora counts? So 5 lights in this room means that either Sora counts, or my old theory about somebody, like, hanging around the rest of the group invisible was actually right. And I don't like that theory. Like, it's possible, but I don't like it. So I'm gonna write it off for the time being, until new evidence rises to the contrary. Like, the only evidence I had pointing towards it was the game of kick the can in the use route, right? Because Tsugumi denied being the one who was kicking the can, and you need a body to kick the can. So that sort of added credence to somebody being invisible. But I guess it was dark enough that they wouldn't even necessarily had to be invisible. But that still doesn't... But I guess for this instance, they would have to be invisible, because presumably they're in the room. And so either they have a bunch of skill points in hide, or are, like, presumably... Like, being invisible is more plausible in this setting than in most, right? Because we already have, like, projectors in the ceiling messing with what people are seeing. So it's not inconceivable that you have somebody with, like, an active camouflage type thing, where they're, like, blending into the background behind them. But I guess until I have stronger evidence towards that, I guess I'm just going to assume that Sora counts. Which makes the number going down to 5 really inconvenient for me. But I'll deal with that when I have, I guess, stronger hunches to go off of. Perhaps it was just because of a malfunctioning sensor. The cause is unclear. Would you like to see what else we can find out? Man, if that ends up being, like, actually the answer is that the sensor was malfunctioning, I'm gonna feel so cheated. Like, you know how many minutes of my life I have wasted thinking about, like, or, like, trying to come up with a solution for why the number is fluctuating between 5 and 7? Like, it's a double-digit number of minutes. And if like, the answer to the solution is like, oh yeah, the sensor was bugged, like, there's gonna be hell to pay. Nah, Tsugumi's on the second floor and there are 5 of us here. So the number 6 is probably right, don't you think? But, well, I figure if we go look around a little more, we'll find out soon enough. I would hope so. Yeah. No, I guess not, right? Because the phrase, I would hope so, implies that the result that you're, like, indicating is sort of the expected result, right? Like, if somebody says, like, I'll have the paperwork done by 5, whatever, and you say, I would hope so, then that's implying that the paperwork being done by 5 is, like, the expected result. Like, if that wasn't the case, then we would have problems. But I don't actually expect them to find an answer, so I guess I should have just said, I hope so, not I would hope so. See, I'm a native speaker, right? Like, I should know this stuff. But I'm not very smart, you see. Alrighty then. So, y'all want to head to the second floor? I thought it was best if we actually took in the situation with our own eyes. We climbed to the top of the long emergency stairs together. In the end, we didn't find anyone else on the third floor. We didn't see any routes that looked like they might lead out either. Sora had told us there was no schedule for the communication system to be back online. We could look at the information displayed on some of the Lemmet terminals, which were set in some attractions and in the corridors, but we couldn't operate them in any way. That's obnoxious. The cause for this was unclear too. The fact that there were no leaks on that floor was our one saving grace. Yeah, see, that's... The fact there's no leaks on this floor is bugging me out a little bit. I guess it just adds credence to my theory that the kid routes and the Takeshi routes are sort of temporarily disjointed. That the kids' routes take place 15 years after Takeshi's routes. I actually have alibis for a reasonable amount of my cast, right? Like, of the 7 main cast members, I have, like, solid alibis for 4 out of the 7 for why that could be the case. Of course, the last 3 are problematic. Let's go through them one by one, right? Sora obviously makes sense. Like, she's a hologram. She's not going to age in 15 years. And you can, like, manually mess with her memory, so she might even not know that 15 years have passed. Coco, same deal. Like, most of what we saw of Coco in the kids' routes, it is entirely plausible that that is a hologram, and the real Coco is actually 15 years older, and hiding out in Heimel for the entire story. So Coco is more or less good to go. Sarah hasn't shown up yet in this route, so perfectly plausible for her to be, like, the time skip wouldn't cause any continuity problems with her. And we didn't even see her before we got trapped, right? Like, oh no, did we? I think we did. Okay, so that's slightly problematic. Like, in the prologue, before we selected a character to have as our protagonist. Okay, so if she shows up as the prologue, she's, like, slightly problematic, but not impossible to get around. So there's 4. And then U, my current theory is, based on the fact that their names are different, the 2 U's, that the U in Takeshi's route is the quote-unquote mother of the U in the kids' route, and the U in the kids' route is actually a clone of our current U. So there's the 4 that, like, make sense, more or less, to have a time skip of 15 years for. But then we have issues with the other 3. Like, Takeshi doesn't make any sense. The kid makes more sense than Takeshi, at least, because he has the amnesia thing. But it still doesn't make that much sense, because there's still the issue of, like, why isn't he physically older? Like, we established in the epilogue that he doesn't have some sort of weird, I don't know, biological thing going on where, like, he just doesn't physically age. Like, he clearly grew 1.5 feet between the end of his route and the epilogue. So we can't really... We need some sort of way to circumvent that issue before we can, like, fully get on board this theory. And then last is Tsugumi. Tsugumi is probably problematic for the... She's problematic for the same reason the kid is, but she is unproblematic for the same reason the kid is, in that she clearly, like, has some sort of secondary information source, but only so far in the kid's route, right? Like, in Takeshi's route so far, all she's done is, like, kind of been a dick, right? And that's a reasonable thing for a person to do. Like, I'm a dick sometimes. It's a thing that I've done. There's certainly no, like, weird time travel reasons for it. I just happen to have a horrible personality. So the fact that Tsugumi only sort of acts super suspicious of the rest of the group and, like, makes allusions to the fact that there are things going on in the background in the kids' route sort of adds credence to the theory that Tsugumi is not the exact same as this one and has more information in some capacity. There's also the fact that the cover art for one of the versions of the game has 2 instances of Tsugumi on it. Like, if you look at the, I'm blanking on the word, but, like, the picture linked to the videos, like, that's the art I used for the Let's Play. And there's 2 Tsugumis on it, and I don't know what that means. But, like, I assume it's meaningful in some capacity. I actually like the other cover art better, but I couldn't find good dimensions of that one because it's like too vertical. Anyways, we're getting now completely off topic. But anyways, so of the 7 characters, 4 of them make more or less sense. Or like 4 of them are largely unproblematic to have a 15 years time skip for. 2 of them are problematic, but it explains certain things about their character. And then 1 of them just, Takeshi doesn't make any sense. But the theory is at least not completely implausible. And it's sort of aided by the fact that the, like, flooding situation is completely different between the 2 protagonists' routes. We arrived at Zweigstock, the 2nd floor. Sora gave us 30 minutes of free time, but that still didn't mean we could go running around as we pleased. So we decided to randomly hit some of the rooms and search them. Sora held her hand out in front of her and a holographic window appeared. Unlike the floor below, all the scanning sensors on the floor seem to be functioning normally. This floor appears safer as well. Oh, Tsugumi is on this floor. She seems to be walking in the vicinity of the elevator. You can tell that? Yes. I will work in the security office while monitoring everyone's activities. If a problem arises, I will announce it via the intercom. Of course, there's also the possibility that I'm just, like, misremembering completely which sections of the building were flooded, and it's actually the same flooding situation in both. Like, I think I've been in rooms... I think by this point I've been in rooms that have different flooding situations between the 2 sections of the game, but I'm not 100% sure there. Like, in a perfect world, we would wander into one of the rooms that I'm, like, 100% sure was flooded in the kids' room, like the Lemurian ruins, for example. Like, if we swing by the Lemurian ruins and it's not flooded, then that at least confirms that there's something weird going on with the flooding situation. Yes, I will work in the security office while monitoring everyone's activities. If a problem... Oh, I just said that. If a problem arises, I will announce it via the intercom. And if something happens, please contact me immediately. Alright, okay then. So let's split up and meet in the security office in half an hour. Okay. Okie dokie. Bow wow. Oh wait, PB's here? Did I just completely miss that? Because PP should totally count as a life reading, right? Which means I both have a problem and don't have a problem. It means I get over my concern about Sora counting, right? Because now I can just... If I assume that PP was, like, with Coco the whole time, then the 5 life readings in the computer room suddenly make sense again. Like, it wasn't Sora, it was PP. There doesn't need to be anyone invisible. But the fact that it was resting on 6 in the kids' route as well suddenly makes, like, a lot less sense. I don't know, keeping all these numbers straight in my head is, like, a little bit obnoxious, but dog instead of hologram lady is... That's the conclusion I've arrived from this phrase. Sure, whatever. But yeah, at least now I am quasi-confident that Sora doesn't count. I'm more confident than I was 5 minutes ago. 5 minutes ago, like, the fact that nobody seemed to be concerned about Sora counting, or the fact that nobody seemed concerned about the number 5 in the control room, or the fact that they gave 5 dots in the control room as, like, the number of dots there were, threw me for a loop, because I really wasn't expecting Sora to count. But I had not realized that PP was with them the whole time. After closing the holographic window, Sora went into a room a little ways down the corridor. Apparently that was the security office. Everyone headed out in a different direction from the corridor intersection. I took my PDA out of my pocket and pressed the button. It was recharged and the backlight was working without a problem. I reset the time. After that, I tested it a number of times, but it didn't seem to be able to make a call or go online. I mean, we established, I think in the prologue, right, that, like, we're too far underwater to pick up cell signals or whatever. Maybe I ought to give up using this to get in touch with the outside. I pushed the PDA back into my pocket. I had 30 minutes left. I was trying to decide which area of the park to visit first. Is this choice relevant? No. Unfortunately, Lemurian Ruins isn't one of the options, because that's like one area that I definitely remember being flooded. What about the souvenir shop? Oh yeah, I don't remember this place at all. Adjacent to the corridor was a little room for visitors to rest, as well as a shop selling theme park goods. There was a sign with the Limu mascot on it. This is where I had peeled the mascot costume off of the kid. The Mew raccoon dog mascot. I didn't see any raccoon dog stuffed animals next to all kinds of keychains, hologram pendants, sneak food snacks, and other stuff. I still had no idea what the raccoon dog was. The kid was sitting on a bench next to me. He wasn't really looking at anything, but his gaze seemed fixed. He just kept staring at the ground. I expected to see a hole open up in the ground he was staring so intensely. He had his hands up on his temples. How's your headache, kid? What's the matter? Did you find something? Or did you remember something? Who are you? Wait, what? I just told you a bit ago. I introduced myself. I'm Takeshi. Takeshi Kuranari. Oh, is that right? What am I doing here? Oh, great. It's that amnesia thing. The kid couldn't even remember what he had just said. He just moved from one topic to the next, forgetting the last. Interesting. I wonder what to make of this. Like, now that the kid's not the protagonist anymore, it, like, suddenly is much less obtrusive to the overarching story to have amnesia get real bad real fast. But I'm not sure what purpose it serves. Like, just, I think in the previous video, they gave me a long list of things that can trigger amnesia, none of which seemed particularly relevant to my interests. He just moved from one topic to the next, forgetting the last. This is the marine theme park Limu. Something happened and we're trapped here. Lemur? What do you mean trapped? That's something I'd like answered myself. And who are you? Takeshi Kuranari. Takeshi Kuranari? Takeshi means samurai in Japanese. Maybe you should start taking notes. You know, keeping track of my name, the other people, where we are and stuff. Notes? Yeah, maybe I should. Looks like you're understanding what taking notes means. Take good ones, even when you're eating. And if you can remember, you can make a memo of your name, too. I gave the kid a memo pad and pen I had filched from the kiosk. Thanks. Hey, can you tell me what year it is? You forgot that, too? Yeah. It's 20... what year is it? How can you not know what year it is? I searched around in my pocket. My entrance ticket stub was crumpled and stuck to the back of my PDA. Oh, that's right, it's 2017. Take notes, write it down. Okay, 2017. He was taking it down. He looked like he hadn't forgotten how to take notes. Okay, so 2017... I feel like I remember it being 2017 at some point. But I can't remember if anyone had, like, evidence to back that up or if they were just, like, saying it was 2017. And, like, I kind of wish I'd been paying more attention to that in retrospect now that I'm, like, getting tangled up with, like, time travel issues and thinking that the two halves of the story are, like, temporally displaced. Like, if the other half of the story takes place in 2032, like, presumably that's the kind of thing that's foreshadowed somewhere. But maybe this one takes place in 2032 as well. Like, the ticket stub doesn't actually provide up-to-date information, right? It just tells us when it was when we entered the theme park originally, not when it is currently. But based on my theory, this was the route that took place in, like, more or less the present. So why do you want to know the year? Yeah, kind of. Wait, what? That's not how answering questions works. Kind of. I thought that if I heard the year, then I might be able to at least remember my birthday. I see. Come to think of it, you don't even know how old you are, huh? No. By the looks of it, I'd say you're not a day over 42. Oh, I think they've had this exact conversation before, in the kid's route. What? Surprised, the kid felt his face. I'm kidding. Relax, there's no way. You're probably in the neighborhood of 14 or 15. If you're 18, then you got a baby face. Jeez, don't tell me you forgot your own face. Face? If you're worried about it, go take a look in the mirror. You could sketch a self-portrait in case you forget later. Oh, yeah, maybe I will. Jeez, he's got it rough. But his serious expression had relaxed. That at least was good. So I don't think the conversation was exactly the same between the two times, but it's real similar. Which I guess makes sense if it's like the same person 15 years apart, and they're just put in cryostasis and have their memories wiped or something. Right, because, like, a lot of that boils down to personality, and, like, what sort of, like conversational habits. Or, like, what's it called? Like, people tend to favor certain words, a certain pattern of words over others. Right, like, you could see a text transcript of, like, a group of your friends talking, and even if you didn't have names associated with the various phrases, I imagine most of you could pick out some of your friends based on, like, particular phrases, right? So it's entirely possible that this doesn't disprove my theory that the two routes are 15 years apart, even though the conversations were super similar. Because it's possible that that's just, like, the kind of conversation that these two people would tend to have in this situation. Alright, well, I'm gonna get going. When it's time, you come to the security office. Oh, the security office. Where is that? And where is this again? I'm sorry, I really don't know. It's alright, I understand. If you don't come, then I'll come looking for you. Okay, thanks, Takeshi. Hey, you remembered! Takeshi's your name, right? The kid had begun taking notes, and sure enough, there it was. My name, Takeshi, on his pad, but spelled wrong. Limu kiosk. Situation normal. Security office makes sense to go to last, right? So. To the merry-go-round we go. I headed to the room with the attractions. There was a carousel there. Only instead of horses, it was set to a dolphin theme. It looked like its official name was the Dolphin Carousel. With no visitors around, the ride seemed a little spooky and very lonely. Even the dolphins themselves looked sad. Whoa! Suddenly, a happy melody started and the ride began to rotate. Of course, no one was riding it. All of a sudden, it no longer looked so lonely, but that much more spooky. What is this? Watch out, this place is haunted. Even thinking about it gives me the creeps. Then, from somewhere, I heard someone snickering, so yeah, Tsugumi turned on the lights to mess with him. Oh, it was you, huh? Mwahaha! You came skipping over to me. Hey, Takeshi, when'd you get here? Looks like you're having a lot of fun. But it is fun, isn't it? Doesn't it make you happy? I always wanted to give this ride a whirl once. You pointed to the merry-go-round. Don't just turn it on without any warning. You almost gave me a heart attack. Surprised the heck out of me. I shook my fist at her. I might have been exaggerating a little, but... Takeshi, how can you be scared of a silly pod of wooden dolphins? You looked at me sideways and grinned at me mischievously. Nobody's supposed to be here in the theme park. It was like a horror movie. Jeez, you're such a chicken! Well, you were wasting energy by turning it on, too. What if there were a blackout? And we've got no idea how long Limu's backup power is good for. Besides, everyone knows that you should save energy. How very environmentally minded of you, Takeshi. So, you're not only chicken, but you worry a lot, too. What are you talking about? It's common sense. Oh, Takeshi, so you don't know? Next, she held her palms out and feigned exaggerated surprise. This Limu doesn't get any of its power from outside. It's all generated inside the complex. Down more than 300 feet underwater on the ocean floor are thermal seafloor vents, basically hot springs. So Limu takes hot water from there and uses it for steam. I feel like they were making a big deal out of this in the last arc, where they were implying that it had somehow links to the overarching conspiracy. Like, Sora was being very, like, dancing around the issue when we started asking for specifics about the energy generation. So, when they mention the energy generation here, I'm like, it sort of pikes my interest, because, like, it seems suspicious the first time around. The power of that steam is used to turn our turbines, and that's how we generate our power. While Limu is a theme park, it's also a closed-cycle plant and a test case for self-sufficient power generation. And that's all memorized from the new employee manual. I see. I can explain it in all kind of depth, and all you can say. I explained it in that kind of depth, and all you can say is I see. I mean, what a wonderful explanation. You're the model employee. Takeshi, that was sure a sexy scream you let out when the dolphin started moving. You were scared, weren't you? I think I'll tell everyone about it. Do what you want. Then again, maybe you shouldn't. Dolphins had stopped moving of their own accord. You explained that the ride ran for about 3 minutes each time before shutting off automatically. We leaned against the fence surrounding the Dolphin Carousel. So you only work here part-time during the holidays? Yep. I started at the end of April and have been staying here. This is my 4th day. Then out of the blue you get this. Pretty rough. Takeshi, how many times have you come to Limu? This is the first time. Then I've only got a 3-day head start on you. You laughed happily. She sure was cheerful. I had to respect her unflagging optimism and energy. You're tough. I mean, the situation is so depressing and doesn't even seem to faze you. No, I'm really not. It's just easier. I said it earlier, didn't I? Would you rather I get depressed? I think it's better to laugh. You're right. It's all we can do. Then she laughed again. I tried to force a smile. Phew. You stretched like a cat. Then she sat there and hugged her knees. I followed suit and sat down next to her. Tell you the truth. I came to work here because I thought my dad might be here. Your dad? Actually, my father worked in the research and development division of Limu. Research and development? Well, he worked on the computer program. It's the hologram that Sora uses, the lemma terminals, and the complex control system. I don't know the details. He worked on all of it from when Limu was first being built. Of course, he didn't do it alone. He was one of the members involved in developing the project. Huh, is that so? My father disappeared one day. What? He just went missing. When? He's been missing as long as I can remember. It was when I was 1 year old, 17 years ago. 17 years ago? So you don't remember your father? No. I've only seen pictures and movies of him. Okay, so this, puts a damper on my theory of the two U's being clones of each other. Because, like, if they have the same issue with the dad, like, it feels like too much of a coincidence for the dad to just go missing in both cases. And why are their names different? I'm so confused. Are they like twins or something? Man, I was so excited about the clone theory too. Now you have to go punch big holes in it. Party pooper. I've only seen pictures and movies of him. I don't really have any memories. Everything I just told you I heard from my mother. But why? Why did he disappear? I guess if that's all secondhand, then, like, I don't know, maybe the conspiracy runs deeper than I thought. So it's still possible, but it is less plausible. If I knew that, I wouldn't have come here. Well, the only clue to what happened is probably here. The last time my father was seen was in Limu. So I thought that if I came here, maybe I would find some clue about my father. It seems like my mom's already given up, so I can't count on her. My mom seems to think my dad's already dead. Dead. Word dead had a heavy ring to it. But you know, I believe. I believe that he's alive somewhere. He has to be. He just went missing. They never found his body. I heard that some of my father's research is being used in the new programs on some of the latest attractions. There has to be a clue somewhere in this place about the work my father was doing. Well, the original. The attractions are already underwater. After that, we lapsed into silence. I didn't know if I should say something to her. I tried to think of what to say, but didn't hit upon anything. Suddenly, Yu stood up. I'm kind of in the mood for some music. Something light and fun, if you know what I mean. So I think I'll get the dolphin spinning again. Takeshi, why don't you finish looking around? With that, she darted away. Hey, Yu? The dolphin started spinning again. Yu didn't come back. It looked like she had disappeared to the corridor behind the merry-go-round. I guess I'll get out of here. It was as if the dolphin saw me off. I left the room behind. Dolphin's Carousel. Situation normal. Sora had said that she'd be working in the security office, but I wondered what she was doing there. Besides, she was the only one that had been doing desk work the whole time we'd been trapped. I imagined she would be getting a different kind of tired from what we got walking around. Mentally tired, maybe. As I was thinking that, I knocked on the security office door. Knock, knock. Hello, Sora, are you there? Wait, this metal door is so thick you couldn't hear me if you were. I pushed the button for the intercom on the panel next to the door, but Sora didn't reply. I wonder if she isn't in there. The door wasn't locked, so I pushed the open button and it opened. The security office was small, and it was dirty. The front wall was packed with monitors. They were all stained dark from cigarette smoke. Ashtrays were stacked up like it was normal. And there was a huge sign plastered on the wall that said no smoking. Ah, irony. I recalled the sloppy clubroom back at college. It had 25 years of history being only used by guys, and couldn't help but chuckle. But I restrained myself and kept looking. Sora wasn't there. Sora? Hey, Sora, where are you? I didn't think you were the type to go running off without telling anyone. I took another step inside the room. Ka! Wah! All the windows in the wall monitors opened and closed. Takeshi, when did you get here? For some reason, the voice sounded like it came from the shadow of the desk. It was a blind spot and I couldn't see Sora. So you are here, Sora. I thought you'd probably be all stressed out from the work and situation, so I came to take a look. What are you doing in that weird place? I approached the rear of the desk as I talked. Oh no, Takeshi, no, please don't. Huh? I'm busy right now. I couldn't see her face, but she sounded embarrassed. If you don't mind, can you wait outside for a little bit? She spoke hesitantly. Oh, are you changing? I'm sorry. No, not exactly. But I suppose it's something like that. Takeshi, you aren't gonna change? If you don't mind employee work outfits. The changing room is directly behind this room. Just turn on the corner of the corridor and you'll find it. Wait, what is she doing? Like, she's a hologram. She shouldn't need to change clothes. I'm super confused. Nah, I'm alright. I'm just a little damp and uncomfortable, but I'm used to it. I see. I'm sorry, but I'm still working and I need to concentrate. But I'll be done by the allotted time. Sorry to bother you. I'll go look around a little more. Okay, good luck. Thank you. During our whole exchange, Sora was hidden and I didn't see her. I waved in Sora's direction, though I figured she couldn't see me, and headed for the exit. Hey, it's not good for you to stay cooped up in here. Take a break once in a while. I said it without looking back. Okay, but please do not worry about me. I like my work. If I really get into it, I can go for days without sleep just fine. I mean, presumably the number of days is, more or less non-bounded, right? Sleep without days, that's insane. Days without sleep, you mean? That's pretty funny. I didn't really understand what she meant, but I suppose she's probably really into her job. I imagine that system engineer was probably just an occupation that drew interesting types, and felt satisfied with that. Security office, situation normal. I took my PDA from my pocket and checked the time. There were 17 minutes until this time Sora had said. I wondered where I should hit next. Wait, new options? Oh baby. I don't know. Do them in order, I guess. The elevator. I continued to the next corridor, to the next corner in the corridor and hung a left. I went in the far door, which is open. Huh? Where am I? I've been aiming for the elevator, but wound up somewhere else. The sign said, oh god. Quale? Quala? I had no clue what it meant. Reading the explanation, I learned that this was a gondola in the shape of a jellyfish. It's, unique. I wasn't particularly in the mood for a ride. I checked to see that there was no damage to the floors or the walls and left. The elevator was next to the jellyfish gondola. Oh. Tsugumi was standing there silently. She was in front of the closed elevator doors with a stern look on her face. So this is where you were. It didn't look like Tsugumi had noticed me, but she didn't reply. Or it looked like she had noticed me, but she didn't reply. Her eyes stayed fixed on the door. This elevator doesn't go to the surface. I was reading a nearby sign. It says that to go to the floating island, until null, we should use the elevator in the center of the floor. Hey, Tsugumi, just standing there isn't going to make the elevator come. I know that. Tsugumi finally answered me. I know because I just saw it. Saw what? The elevator. As soon as she said that, she placed her hands on the closed elevator doors and started prying them apart. The door was stopped half open. I thought it might be broken. Tsugumi looked inside. See, the elevator stopped on the 3rd floor. Scared, I peeked in. Oh, that's the one we rode down in. It's still there from when we escaped. A little box in the abyss. The elevator was about 20 yards down. I thought that the floor were fairly far apart, but didn't realize actually how far. Whoa! Tsugumi suddenly gave a little push on my shoulder from behind. That's rude. Don't push. What do you think would happen if I fell from here? If you fell, I think that you would die. Most definitely. Tsugumi said it without a trace of emotion. Jeez, why do you want to go and scare me? Just a coward. Wow, rude. Tsugumi pulled on the doors, putting them back in their original positions. Just to be sure, I tapped on the elevator button a couple of times. There was no response. The lamp didn't light up. Doesn't look like it's getting any power. Yes, and the elevator shaft is warped. The elevator shaft is warped. So even if it was getting power, it probably couldn't move normally. That's right, this elevator is useless. After that, Tsugumi went quiet again. Silence was the rule for a while. Tsugumi rarely talked. She only said the minimum necessary. I thought that maybe she was trying to be careful of me for some reason. I wonder what it could be. I wanted to know. Hey, why don't you tell me what happened? It's got nothing to do with you. It might have been true, but still. It's got nothing to do with me. It's got something to do with me. Hey, you know something I don't? Something like what? Like about this accident. Like maybe something to do with the reason you're all quiet? Accident. This wasn't an accident. It was planned. Dun dun dun! What makes you say that? Huh. You're not surprised? Tsugumi gave me a strange look. So you feel like something isn't right too? Well, maybe, I guess. Like everything is just too neat. We can't communicate with the outside and our escape routes are all closed. But we've got electricity and the air conditioning still works. It's almost like someone trapped us here on purpose. Guess you're not as dumb as you look. Tsugumi's expression loosened into a slight smile. It was a provocative smile. What do you mean by that? You mean exactly what I said. You don't look that smart. What? This chick. I'd love to tell her what I really think of her. That thought ran through my mind. But I thought that could really make me look stupid, so I resisted the urge. This is a trap. Tsugumi's expression returned to normal. And you probably aren't going to get out. No, not just you, but everyone else as well, all 4 of them. You're all the same. Huh? What about you then, Tsugumi? Yeah, I suppose I could die in a place like this. Wouldn't be bad at all, I guess. That's, morbid. Tsugumi looked upward. The ceiling was covered with artificial materials. It felt oppressive. She laughed again. Then she left, disappearing down the corridor, and I was all alone. Jellyfish gondola koala. Situation normal. Elevator out of order. There was a room with no sign indicating what it was for. It caught my curiosity, and I decided to have a look. It appeared as a warehouse of some kind. There were loads of boxes made of reinforced plastic all piled up. There was a pushcart and boxes too big to carry, and some long and narrow that a person could just hold. There were all kinds of marks, symbols, and letters on the boxes, and I couldn't make sense of them. There were a bunch of round carbon capsules and drum-like looking objects. I wondered what was inside of them. I figured I didn't really need to know. There was a hissing noise coming from somewhere. Looking for the sound led me to an air conditioner that was in bad shape, but still working. On the room's ceiling was a crane complete with guide rails. One container was still suspended from above. It looked like it had been abandoned in the middle of work. No one had any time for cleanup. Everyone had fled at once. Hey, is anybody there? I called out once, but nobody answered. There's no reason anyone would be here. There was no reply. Warehouse. Situation normal. Interesting. That was, like, so nondescript it made me suspicious. Like, I feel like that warehouse is going to be relevant at some point in the future. Infirmary. I arrived in front of the infirmary. Like, if nothing other than, like, there's something in one of the boxes that they need. But, like, otherwise, that scene just felt so pointless that I feel like there had to be a point. I arrived in front of the infirmary. While this was a theme park, it was also deep in the ocean and had other facilities. Limu's atmosphere was maintained using a mix of gases at an air pressure different from the outside world. It seemed like that could make some people feel ill. I reckon that was the reason this room was so large. Beyond the huge sliding door was a room decked out elaborately in shiny new medical equipment. I thought it could have something to do with Limu's sponsor being a major pharmaceutical company. The room was so clean and white it was nearly blinding. There were 2 normal beds and one that looked like it was for surgery. There was also a huge machine attached to one of them. LMRI was written on it. I didn't know what it was, but it looked like it was some kind of scanner. I saw a shelf in the wall filled with medical tools and medicine. It was probably in case somebody fell ill or got injured here. It wouldn't be possible to move anyone outside, so they would have to be treated here. Yeah, I don't think there's any way out now. I was getting used to surprises, but the voice startled me. I didn't know who was talking. I assume it's Coco, right? Like, that sounds like something she said in the kids' route from, like, the secret room behind the infirmary. But somebody sure was. Everybody? Help! Did you come to help? It sounded like Coco. Man! There's all this dialogue that's the exact same in both routes. And it's like punching big holes in my, like, my theory about the 2 routes being at different points in time. It sounded like Coco, but I didn't know who she was talking to. I mean, assuming it's the same event, it's the kid, right? I couldn't tell where they were. But it's probably impossible. There is no way out anymore. What was she saying? I wondered if something had happened to Coco. I carefully inched toward the rear of the room. I noticed a squarish hole cut out of the floor. I peered down inside. Inside, there was a small elevator stopped. It appeared there was another room directly below the infirmary. The voice was coming from there. I pushed the button. When the lift came, I jumped in. It descended slowly and silently. I arrived below. I noticed the hatch there was slightly ajar. Liar. Because of the wonderful things he does. I eased closer and opened the hatch. Who are you talking to? Coco jumped as if she had been stung. She was sitting on the bed. Nothing looked out of the ordinary. Oh, Takepyon. Takepyon? Yep, you're Takepyon. Huh? Pyon, pyon, takepyon. You do you, Coco. You do you. Safe place, Pokopon? Yeah, you got it. I know the Nineko song 17. Yeah, I don't. Like, this is a reference that is completely lost on me. But it's not pyon pyon, it's Pokopon, right? Yeah. But, huh? Coco. Coco pointed to herself as she said her name. Takepyon. Then she pointed at me. And Pee-Pee is 3 years old. Woof. I'm so confused. But also, the fact that the kid isn't in here is deeply confusing to me. Right? Because she was having the half of a conversation that we saw from the kid's point of view. Like, the kid came into this secret, room, and he was like, we're gonna get out. And Coco's like, no, we're not. And the kid's like, we're definitely gonna get out. And then she called him a liar. Like, it was the same dialogue as we just saw, but the kid was in here. And when Takeshi showed up, the person that wasn't here was Coco. So either there's, like, slight differences between the two routes, and you chalk that up to, like, I don't know, protagonists making different decisions because there's a different person in the driver's seat. Or, like, I'm so confused. That doesn't make sense. Because, like, last time, Coco was the one that, like, suddenly disappeared when Takeshi showed up, right? And that makes sense because she's a hologram. Like, she can do that. In fact, she has very little option other than to do that because, like, it's not like a solid light type hologram. It's a hologram that's, like, pointed directly at your eyes. So it would need to, like, know that Takeshi was coming in and calibrate instantly or whatever. Which it can do, but I don't know. Coco's hologram seemed to function on different rules than Sora's. But here, like, the kid disappeared, and that doesn't make any sense. And also, Coco's in, like, a much more upbeat mood than makes sense for the conversation she was just having, right? Like, she was just having a conversation about how we're never gonna get out of here and we're all gonna die, and there's no way out, right? And now she's, like, joking around and, like, making up nicknames and whatnot. Like, this scene is super weird. It doesn't make any sense. Woof. A public face peeked out from under the bed. Nice to meet you. Oh, nice to meet you too. But haven't we already introduced ourselves? I returned upstairs with Coco. So you're calling me Takepyon, is that it? Yep. Woof. Alright, I got it. So who are you talking to with, Coco? What? Wasn't someone just in that room? No, no one was there. I was just playing around with Pee-Pee. Pyon, pyon, takepyon. Whatever. I didn't think Coco would lie to me. There wasn't anyone else around. Infirmary, situation normal. Situation not normal. Situation very far from normal. Like, why were we able to hear the conversation that happened in the kids' route, but under, like, completely different circumstances? That's so weird. I don't know what to make of that at all. Now, I took my PDA from my pocket and looked at the time. Oh no. We were only 2 minutes late, but still, we were late. I jogged toward the security office. Coco and Pee-Pee were close behind me. We went in through the sliding door. Takeshi, you're late. And to find out the consequences for our lateness, you'll have to tune in next time, because this seems like a decent stopping point. So I'll be signing off here. Catch y'all tomorrow. Peace.